What if the most compassionate person you know is also the most calculated? What if their healing touch is just a cover for their long game strategy? You know that friend who always knows exactly what to say when you're hurting? The one who remembers every detail about your struggles and checks in at just the right moments? We call them healers. They're just naturally empathetic souls who can't help but care. But here's what we're missing. That INFJ isn't just feeling your pain, they're mapping it. They're not just offering comfort, they're gathering intelligence. And that healing they provide, it's not random kindness. It's a strategic influence designed to serve a much larger vision. Today, we're exposing the truth about the INFJ mind. You'll discover how they use empathy as reconnaissance, how healing becomes their weapon of choice, and how they position themselves as indispensable in three key areas: relationships, the workplace, and activism. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never see the gentle INFJ the same way again. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. If you are looking to deepen your understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test, the Empathy Reconnaissance System. Let me tell you about the moment I realized what I was actually doing. I was sitting with a friend who was going through a messy breakup, and as she talked, I found myself mentally cataloging everything. Not just her emotions, but her patterns. How did she justify staying too long? What triggers made her defensive? Which arguments would work on her and which would backfire? I wasn't just being a good friend. I was building a psychological profile. And the uncomfortable truth hit me. I'd been doing this my entire life. This is how the INFJ mind actually works. That extroverted feeling function everyone talks about, it's not just about compassion. It's a data collection system running in the background, constantly gathering emotional intelligence about everyone around you. When you're listening to someone's problems, you're not just absorbing their feelings. You're mapping their emotional landscape. You're noting their vulnerabilities, strengths, and motivational triggers. You remember which words make them light up and which ones shut them down. You catalog their fears, their dreams, their pressure points. Most people feel someone's pain and want to make it stop. INFJs feel someone's pain and simultaneously analyze why it exists, how it functions, and what it reveals about that person's entire psychological framework. You're running emotional reconnaissance while everyone else thinks you're just being nice. Here's the difference between feeling and cataloging. When your coworker mentions they're stressed about a presentation, a regular person might offer encouragement. An INFJ files away that this person crumbles under performance pressure, responds well to detailed preparation, and needs validation from authority figures. 3 months later, when you need that coworker's support on a project, you know exactly how to approach them. This emotional intelligence becomes predictive. You start to see behavioral patterns that let you anticipate how people will react in specific situations. You know who will fold under pressure and who will rise to the occasion. You can predict which relationships will last and which will implode. You see the writing on the wall, while everyone else is still reading the first paragraph. People mistake this strategic empathy for pure altruism because you genuinely do care. The caring is genuine, but it's not the whole story. You care and you're constantly analyzing. You want to help and you're building a comprehensive understanding of human behavior that serves your larger goals. The uncomfortable truth that most INFJs don't want to admit: you remember everything about people's emotional responses. That vulnerability they shared 2 years ago, still filed away. That moment when they revealed their most profound insecurity, you've got it. The specific way they react when they feel cornered, cataloged and cross-referenced. This isn't conscious manipulation. It's how your brain processes emotional information. But the result is the same. You end up with an enormous database of psychological intelligence about everyone in your orbit. And here's what makes this reconnaissance system so powerful. This intelligence gathering serves a much larger strategic purpose that most people never see coming. Strategic positioning in key life areas. Now let's talk about where this strategic mind really shows itself. Because once you understand that INFJs are gathering all this emotional intelligence, the next question becomes obvious. What are they doing with it? The answer is positioning. INFJs use their empathetic insights to position themselves strategically in the three areas that matter most: relationships, the workplace, and activism. Let's start with relationships. INFJs don't just participate in relationships, they lead them. They engineer them. I learned this the hard way when I realized I'd been subtly guiding a friendship toward a specific outcome for months. My friend was dating someone who was clearly wrong for her. Instead of saying that directly, which would have triggered her defenses, I started asking strategic questions. I'd bring up topics that would naturally lead her to voice her own doubts. I'd share stories about healthy relationships that highlighted what was missing in hers. I positioned myself as the safe space where she could process her growing awareness. 6 months later, when she finally ended that relationship, she thanked me for being such a good listener. She had no idea I'd been orchestrating that entire journey of self-discovery. I hadn't manipulated her into leaving him. I'd created the emotional environment where she could reach that conclusion herself. This is how INFJs operate in relationships. You don't force outcomes. You engineer the conditions that make your desired outcomes inevitable. You become the trusted advisor, the emotional safe harbor, the person others turn to for clarity. And from that position, you have enormous influence over the direction relationships take. The famous INFJ door slam isn't an emotional breakdown. It's calculated resource management. When you cut someone out completely, it's because you've run a cost-benefit analysis and determined that this person's impact on your life and goals is net negative. You've given them multiple chances to course correct. You've invested significant emotional labor to help them grow. You've concluded they're not going to change. So you reallocate your energy to relationships that serve your larger vision. In the workplace, INFJs master the art of strategic support. You position yourself as the helper, the problem solver, the person who makes everyone else's job easier. But this isn't random kindness. It's a calculated move to become indispensable. I once worked in an organization where I systematically identified the key decision makers and their pain points. Instead of trying to impress them directly, I started solving their problems before they even asked. I'd anticipate what they needed for meetings and have it ready. I'd notice when they were overwhelmed and quietly handle tasks that would reduce their stress. I became the person they couldn't imagine working without. But here's the strategic part. I wasn't helping everyone equally. I was investing my energy in relationships that could help me create the changes I wanted to see in that organization. I identified the power structures, figured out who had real influence versus those with just titles, and positioned myself as valuable to the people who could actually move things forward. INFJs are masters at working within existing systems while slowly reshaping them from the inside. You don't challenge authority directly. You become trusted by authority, then use that trust to guide decisions in directions that align with your values. This same pattern shows up in activism. INFJs rarely become the face of movements. Instead, you become the trusted advisors to the people who are the faces of movements. You build strategic relationships with influencers, decision makers, and other change agents. You position yourself as the person they turn to for wisdom, strategy, and emotional support. I saw this firsthand through my involvement in social causes. Instead of organizing protests or giving speeches, I focused on building relationships with key players in the movement. I became the person they called when they needed to think through complex strategies. I helped them process their emotions when the work got overwhelming. I connected people who needed to know each other but wouldn't have met otherwise. My influence was invisible but profound. Decisions were made in conversations I facilitated. Strategies were shaped by insights I provided. Connections were formed through introductions I orchestrated. I wasn't leading the movement, but I was quietly steering its direction. INFJs choose influence over confrontation. because influence is more effective. When you position yourself as indispensable to the right people, you can shape outcomes without ever having to fight for them. You become the power behind the throne rather than sitting on the throne yourself. This isn't manipulation when it serves a greater good. It's strategic thinking applied to creating positive change. The mastermind behind the mask. So why did INFJs develop this strategic approach? Simple. Survival and effectiveness in a world that doesn't naturally accommodate your way of being. As an INFJ, you're wired for depth in a surface-level world, complexity in a simplicity-obsessed culture, and long-term thinking in an instant gratification society. Direct approaches don't work for you because most people aren't operating on your wavelength, so you learn to work with human nature instead of against it. The ethical framework that separates INFJ strategy from manipulation is intention. Your strategies serve your values, not your ego. You're not positioning yourself for personal gain. You're positioning yourself to create the kind of world you believe should exist. Your influence serves something larger than yourself. But here's how to tell when you're being strategic rather than genuinely altruistic. Ask yourself, am I helping this person because they need help, or because helping them advances my larger goals? Both can be true simultaneously, and that's okay. The key is being honest about your motivations. With this level of influence comes enormous responsibility. When people trust you with their vulnerabilities, when they turn to you for guidance, when they let you shape their emotional environment, you're holding real power over their lives. That power can heal or harm, depending on how you use it. This is why embracing the strategist identity is more empowering than the healer label. Healers are passive responders to problems. Strategists are active creators of solutions. When you own your strategic nature, you can use it more consciously and effectively. Integration happens when you use both your heart and your mind to achieve the maximum positive impact. Your empathy guides your strategy toward outcomes that serve everyone's highest good. Your strategy amplifies your ability to create real change. Understanding this changes everything about how you see yourself and your role in the world. Your empathy isn't your weakness. It's your strategic advantage. Stop apologizing for seeing patterns others miss and start using that insight to create the changes you want to see. Embrace the strategist within while maintaining your ethical core. The world needs your particular brand of compassionate influence. Subscribe for more insights into the INFJ mind. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.